everyone, Chris Bentley here with the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, and today my guest is Kyle Anthony Trautmann. Kyle, how are you?
Awesome. Super great, man. Thank you.
For coming on the show.
Yeah,
Tell the
of course.
audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally a living man, just practicing health and pretty much giving that praise to God and just developing the guts to keep going and helping as many people as I possibly can with what we do with energy literacy at High Vibe Holonomics.
Talk to me a little bit about, and I'll get into the background and some of the health and stuff here, because I'm going through some health stuff as well. But talk to me a little bit about your company and like what it really is.
Yeah, so it's an all-inclusive aspect of performance. So we take the 9 circuits of essentially electrical potential. We call it energy literacy. So we work with the bioenergetic foundation, which is kind of the emotional soundtrack of your life. And we utilize every aspect of understanding energy, how to produce it, how to harmonize it, and then how to expand it specifically for goals. So you can call it a performance-based company, but we're more so of a private syndication that's working towards people shifting their identity. And then just adding in the components of what it means to maximize your potential here as a human being through a spiritual foundation as well.
All right, so let's go over your health and stuff. So this is what I thought was real interesting. So you had 44 overdoses.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about drugs, hard drugs.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I had substance abuse disorder from ages 17 to 28.
Wow.
In that process was the 44 overdoses. So it started with prescription stimulants. I got on Adderall when I was 17. Really kind of just started off with MDMA, ecstasy in high school. And I was just like, how do I do this all the time? I was like, this is easy, right? You go in, society gives you a permission slip to get one of these prescriptions. And then I just went kind of crazy with that. And that led into cocaine. Spent 6 years in Los Angeles. And then you have the mix of different substances that kind of played in. Nothing ever really was a standstill or like a foundation other than prescription stimulants and cocaine.
So when you had the overdoses, or let's say you had one overdose, right?
Yeah.
Like after you did that, did you go to the hospital? Did you get a stomach pump, all that good stuff?
Oh, yep.
And then like you're like, okay, well that was cool. And then was it like the next day or that day, that hour, were you just like right back on it?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that hour. I know for a fact one of the most pronounced ones when I was 25, or I was 24 at the time, is 2015. I remember I literally got out of the hospital, got the whole sheets, got the whole wrap. Tubes everywhere, basically saying that, you are this, go get help. And I literally went to work.
Wow. Wow.
It was just like, I have a drive, and this is kind of like a shout out to Andy Mineo. I have a drive that usually puts people in the back seat, but like when that drive also meets with substance abuse, it's, you just don't stop. And then it amplifies that even more. So for me, it was just, after my first near-death experience, I got asked on a former podcast, like, what makes you want to keep doing that? Like, some people just usually, they're like, oh, I get it. Like, I want to change my life. And I was like, well, I saw, the pearly gates, and I was like, I know how to get back there now. So, and that concoction with, my own identity crisis at that time, I was like, okay, well, I now know the ticket. And that was what really fueled me, was getting closer to that spiritual light. Cause I was like, my life at that time was just hell on earth.
So were you like, okay, well, I can see, the pearly gates or the light or whatever, because we've had a lot of people on the show that had overdoses or in substance abuse, different stuff. And then usually like at some point, something will happen. Like they'll hover over their bed. I'm very spiritual.
Sure.
And my girlfriend's very spiritual. So like you could see, yourself dead in the bed, people around you, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, well, like maybe I got to stop.
Yeah.
Or like maybe I got to slow down. Or like maybe I got to do different things. I've heard all kinds of different stories about what people have seen, obviously, when you get into spirituality. But I wouldn't say what did you see, but now that you kind of said it, like you're like, okay, well, I already saw that.
Right.
And like, if I do this again, I'll see it again. So it didn't like shake you. It
Right.
wasn't like, oh crap,
Yeah.
like some other people, like I gotta like fix this real quick.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, well, cool.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, you get kind of. I'm not saying like anybody because I've heard crazy stories. You know, I've sat down with some beautiful people, but for me, after I had the third near death experiment, I was like, I can't. There's no way. Like this isn't on me. Like this life isn't mine. Like my devotion to my faith really crystallized in that moment, and I was like, this has to stop. Period. Like it has to stop. And it's been pretty whitewashed since then, but sitting down and not understanding and going through that process at such a young age of 24 when I had the first one, I was just like, I don't have the fundamental skills to be able to process, integrate this into a life's mission, let alone, get out of what's happening in between my two ears. But after the third one, you start to understand that this isn't on you. Like death in itself, like I'm so comfortable having conversations with that just because when you cross that veil, but then come back, you're just like, okay, well, this isn't, I have no control over this. When I'm called, that's the calling. And then I'll know everything is solid at that point. And then you're at the ultimate peace, in my humble opinion, because anybody that I've talked to, and I'm sure you've talked to people too, when they get to that other side, it is pain-free. There is a liberation entirety of the soul. But when you come back, it's immensely different. So yeah, the weird part about how I went about it doesn't even make sense to me. It's a very nonsensical way of making sense of your own issues. But yeah, by God's grace, I'm here. And it's beautiful.
yeah, that's awesome. And then you had a near fatal brain injury, and we talked about you had a tumor at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I know I'm battling some health stuff too. So
Right.
talk to me a little bit about that because obviously that all played into building the company
Yeah.
and having the mindset of kind of where you're going or
Yeah.
where you're going, I should say.
That is where, and this is beautiful because this is the first time I get to actually talk about this on air because 2 years ago is roughly kind of when everything collided. And I was featured on a podcast, a shout out to Alex Zek and the Way Forward, in the Austin area. And that was the last time I was in Texas. So it's really cool to be here in person here in Dallas to be able to do this because it's kind of like a closure loop too. But we were kind of at our max. We were just like, this is where we were taking this beyond the nation. We started to have, clients globally, Italy, Germany, Tokyo, Australia. And it was very interesting, place to be because I was at the essential apex of my career. And this is how this all transpired. I went in for just a routine massage. Worked with somebody that I had been with for 5 years. I had been doing the same thing. I kind of knew what to expect. And through the process, thought I was good, right? After going through the massage, woke up the next morning, my whole left arm was completely ballooned out.
What?
Yeah, so what happened in the massage is she rerouted by a point pressure my subclavian artery. So what happened through that, I was like, okay, well, this is ballooned out. I was like, all right, that's it, okay. Like that's just pressure from that. Like we'll be able to, it'll go down.
Right.
And then it just didn't. And then I was like, I got to go in, get this thing checked out. And they gave me the diagnosis of DVT, which is deep vein thrombosis. So, there's an issue with the blood clot. Got the whole scans, everything. And got put on immediate blood thinners.
Yeah.
And from that, this is where things got really crazy. November 28th, which is when my podcast actually launched with The Way Forward, I was on the phone call with one of my teammates and literally had a minor aneurysm.
Wow.
So from that minor aneurysm, excuse me, went to go get checked out and found out I had a near severance of my medial prefrontal cortex, which there's some nerve fibers which connects your neocortex to your amygdala, and it was like hanging on by like a fiber.
What?
Yeah, the amygdala, which is like an almond shape, it really helps with the emotional regulation. That was like the size of a cutie orange.
Wow.
So that brain injury, then it was like, we were just getting ready to train our first facilitators within the techniques that I've developed over the last 11 years. And that was to start in January of 2024. And we had to kibosh the whole thing.
Wow.
So to stop that, in that whole process, we built a school, which was beautiful because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And that diagnosis not only just changed my trajectory of how I go about business, but it's what I was told from specialists and neurologists that I was working with, that a near severance of your medial prefrontal cortex is essentially the equivalent of a brain going through a torn Achilles. And that's on average like a 2-year recovery. So we're right here at that 2-year mark, and this is the best I've ever felt.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
So I don't know if you went through this, but I'm kind of going through it. And I've heard through different things. Obviously, I do a lot of research, but in any of that stuff, did you pick up like extrasensory stuff? Like, can you like, does your taste different? Does smells taste or smell different? Hearing, genuine. Like, I can look at somebody and see if they're genuinely a good person.
Yeah, that's
Like,
cool. That's great.
Yeah, like it's just something that I picked up because I went through a pretty big operation and I spent a lot of time just with my eyes closed, and because I have PTSD, so from my first one. But yeah, I can look at a person quickly.
Yeah.
And I could just tell if the person is genuine or not. I could tell like who they are, what they are. And I just like smelling, tasting, just way different.
Yeah. I mean, what a great thing to get on the back end of that. I mean, I think like you get these like doors open to you on the other side, once you go through something crazy. I haven't picked up on a bunch. Really? I know for a fact that my smell has increased but yeah, I've never even thought about that. That was something I would have to ponder on.
Yeah, you should think about it. Yeah, think about it because I spend a lot of time just obviously thinking, but
yeah. Well, hopefully I'm a good person if you read that.
Oh yeah. You're good, man. You're good. Because I was just thinking about like all those different times you like overdose and you have that brain thing. Man, like I would just like, especially like messing with like some of the chemicals that you were doing with the drugs. Like I'm sure that like affected just spiritual. I'm really big in spirituality, so like I can kind of see and do different things. But let's get into your business.
Sure.
Because I could talk all day long about spirituality.
Yeah.
Talk to me about really what the business is. So somebody, let's say, is a high-performing salesperson.
Sure.
Somebody that's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Somebody that's a CCO of a large bank.
Yeah.
And they come to you and they want something from you. What is it that you really offer them?
Well, the first thing is energy diagnostics. If we can fully grasp the totality of what energy is, that is going to be the precursor to the fundamental of your consciousness, right? However you're performing, you need energy. But if you're going to look at it from a vague concept or from like how I did when I was in the addiction as a stimulant concept, you don't really understand what the burnout factors are. And burnout seems to be a huge thing. It seems to be a trendy thing lately. And what we really do is just making sure that you are restored, right? And then you harmonize before you actually expand. So a lot of people that I've worked with, especially high performers, and not just like the people that are looking for flow for post-traumatic growth or flow for just production in general, they're looking for a whole toolkit that actually can maximize all different systems simultaneously. And the greatest thing that my addiction taught me and substance abuse disorder taught me is how to reverse engineer what you're actually looking for energy. Because that's what I initially thought. I was like, wow, this feels amazing. This is energy, right? It's like kind of like the false pretense and conception that you get from just like a cup of coffee, right? What is actually energy? And then when you reverse engineer it and give to their diagnostics to them exactly what they're hitting from all of those circuits, from your ATP production to the emotional landscape, which is your identity or lie identity, however you're moving through that. And then also seeing every aspect of your structured water, your circadian alignment, every single detail for you to maximize what your results are. So the one thing that we really focus on is that if you are looking for goals, right, and to hit any results, especially if you're doing it for other people, your family, you need that completely. So the best part about really teaching people on the diagnostic standpoint is that if you really want to get to where you want to go, you're going to need all the energy you can get. And the greatest thing that I've learned, not only just in business, but also in my life, if you have a dream and you are a big go-getter, you need all the energy you can get. So the biggest thing is just getting a blueprint and a template of really how to maximize your system and most importantly, restore it properly through flow.
how does that work? So I come to you, and energy can't be broken or destroyed. It can only
Sure.
be manipulated, right?
Right.
So if I come to you and I say, hey, like, Kyle, the thing is, look, I'm trying to be, I don't want to sound all big headed and egoistic, right? But let's just say,
Sure.
like, I want to be the number one real estate broker in Dallas, right?
Okay.
And like, I have the drive to do it. I'll spend 23 hours out of 24 hours, 8 days a week
Yeah.
working on it. That other hour, I won't even sleep. Like, I'll just eat, bolts and go to the gym or something,
Oof.
like,
Oof.
whatever it is, right? Like,
Right.
I'll do whatever it takes kind of deal.
Yeah.
Do you guys do like a questionnaire, like a scan? Like, what is
Yeah.
it that you guys kind of go
The
through?
diagnostics really ask you how to set up your universal cycles. So in consciousness, you have an ultradian cycle, which maxes about 60 to 120 minutes. Some can go up to 180 minutes, just kind of depending on your rest. But then we're also mainly looking at what is the flow cycle. There's 4 phases for productivity, and we would maximize, especially for somebody who's like, I'll do whatever it takes. Like, even as a professional, I take people at surface value. I'm like, cool, you got to show me what's up, because people talk all the time. But then we would really focus on the 4th phase, which is active recovery. How to really get non-sleep deep rest, or what we call the Power 5, to really get into your rest cycle while you're not sleeping. So we would really activate that, because if you are a go-getter, it's easy to say that on a conscious drive. But when you're in more so of an unconscious state of rest while perpetuating that while you're not sleeping, that would be like the biggest take. So our diagnostics would be like, hey, this is fundamentally insane that you would want to work 23 hours a day. Highly don't recommend that. But we can not, quote unquote, hack your sleep, but we can really get into the 4th phase of active recovery. And that would be the biggest thing that we would focus on.
I wanted to ask you about this before I let you go. So one of the things that I kind of got onto yesterday, and it was something, how like Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, like they can read your mind and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I've been thinking about this idea where I only do 3 things. Like every day I have 3 things, and that's it.
Cool.
Right. I may have 1,000 things I got to do.
Right.
But it's 3 things that I have to do.
Yeah.
And I sleep for 8 plus or 10 plus hours. So it's very important that I focused 100% on those 3 things. And then once I'm done with those 3 things, if I chose to do a 4th thing or a 5th thing, that's my discretion. Or if I choose to sit on the couch, that's my discretion, right? And I watched this thing about Steve Jobs, and he would, everybody says he's an a-hole, right? And just kind of the way he comes off, very brush against people. But it was Mr. Wonderful, and he was talking about how you take those 3 things, whatever it is in that day, and you put it up top, and that's all you focus on. And everything else kind of takes a back seat. And what happens is that you get those 3 things done, and your stress level drops, because inside your mind, you're done with the day.
Yeah.
It's very similar to working a job.
Sure.
Right? So, like, if I had to go work a job today, which I don't, thank God. But, right? So, like, if I got to go punch in at 3, my whole day, my whole mindset is, crap, man, like, I got to punch in at 3.
Yeah.
And then I get to punch in, and then I got X amount of boxes I have to unload. Let's say, like, I'm a stalker or something, right?
Sure.
So I got a certain amount of pallets I got to unload today. And then once I'm done with those pallets at whatever time, let's say 8 o'clock, how many, 6 hours, whatever it is, 10 o'clock, I'm done for the day. So inside my mind, I could say, okay, well, if it takes me 7 hours, cool.
Yeah.
If it takes me 3 hours, even better. Then I have the rest of the day. But as soon as those pallets are done,
right,
the stress level is gone.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I was like, it's been something I've been really working on. It's been working out really great.
Huge. Yeah. Those little like tweaks, and that kind of reminds me of the book, The One Thing.
Yeah.
Right. When you're just like, you're dialed in, this is a non-negotiable for me. I can only imagine like the trickle effect that has on everything else that you do throughout the day.
Yeah, because for me, I'm done. It's like clocking it.
Yeah.
So as soon as I'm done with those 3 things, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like when you go at the tables in Vegas, right? It's like done.
That's
right.
It.
So like that's kind of how it is. And ever since then, I've just been really like focused on that. And I spend the whole night before thinking about what are my 3 things I have to do
Right.
out of all the chaos, and then that's it.
That's it.
And
I
it's
love
been
it.
like a brain, just been like just a brain defogger because I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
sorry, I'll get to it tomorrow.
Well, it's fascinating because I mean, the research has shown that we can only fundamentally focus on and process 7 units of information in our working memory at any given time. So if you give it less than 7, I can only imagine how much cognitive bandwidth you have throughout the rest of your day once you're done with that. That's huge.
Kyle, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, learn more about your company, and either talk to you more about your history, because I'm really into a lot of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Where would they find you?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle A. Trautmann at Instagram. You can also Kyle Anthony Trautmann on Facebook. You can go to www.highvibeholonomics.com. That's where all of our student enrollment stuff is. But yeah, get into the DMs. Hit me up. I love having conversations, and it feels good to be back to connect with people, especially in person too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Kyle, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Awesome.